Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Space Engineers. I'm just testing out the animations that were added many months ago and aren't really the whole point of this video. What's actually standing behind me is the point of the video. I decided that my last Sidewinder project was okay, and then I saw a user on I can't remember their name, but they said it looked kind of like a flying roof. And I took a good look at it and I was like, yeah, this does look kind of like somebody's roof, you know, was flying off into space and was shooting things. And even though it was funny and still kind of cool to look at and ride around in, I was like, why don't I make something that looks maybe at least a little bit more like an actual Sidewinder? I got a little carried away at certain points and it's kind of departed a bit from what one of those actually is. And my character is looking around, yay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead into first person mode again, and I'm going to show you guys around what this thing is. A lot of this is based off of mods. The armor ramps, like the fact that like all of these are armored, is definitely part of, I think, Uncle Steve's mod pack, armor ramps. It is incredible, it is amazing. In my opinion, it should be in the vanilla game. Please devs, maybe. But the important thing is just that I really wanted to use that to get the overall look, because these triangular pieces here are kind of like quasi-pyramidal kind of things. There's no vanilla version of that, so in order to actually, I think, get this effect, you need to use at least this, I think they're 2x1 ramps, just like the ramps that you would have on a large ship or station, but these are made out of heavy armor. The Hammerman glass mod is also part of this, and also azimuth, the azimuth thruster system, as well as some of the other parts here. The reactors, the passenger seats, those are all azimuth, as well as this cockpit seat, which is really awesome. The most interesting thing of this is I was like, how can I make this actually seem like a ship? I know in Elite Dangerous, I think technically you would enter from about where this landing gear is, which is also a bit of a departure from the model. I tried to make ones that go up and down and retract like the original, which I'll show you over here again. I stripped down the back of it a little bit, the engine. Actually, no, I was wrong. Well, no, yeah, I took off part of the engines, but was designed to have these retractable ones, so those are actually more like what you would see on a Sidewinder. But these on this are actually ones that just go up and down. They looked awful because of the way that the slope slanted. I couldn't really hide them on the undercarriage without making this ship like massive. And I know in the actual game Elite Dangerous, even the tiniest ships are like probably the size of this platform or so. They're really huge. But I like the idea of making this like a small ship and actually like a fighter, like what you actually use it as in Elite Dangerous. Obviously the gimbaled kind of like directional thrusters that would be on here, there's nothing that's in Space Engineers at the moment that really works that way, so I had to get creative with the border of azimuth thrusters. This is the communication suite over here. And there are some interesting ways that this thing flies because there's so many pistons on this that it causes some control issues, but I was like, you know what, if I'm going, form, over, function, I might as well just run with it. So this is kind of all of the things. Yes, it does have a frame shift drive, or the closest thing to it in the game. Visibility, not awful, but definitely not as good as what you would get if you were actually in the game. I haven't painted it yet like the other one, has more traditional paint job, but this is kind of like your prototype. So I'm going to actually turn on the, let's see here, if I hit 9, turns on the reactor system, so our power is on, and then I'm going to turn on the main ignition. So we have main ignition ready. I'm also going to turn on now this isn't going to retract them, but it's actually going to make it so that I can use the landing gear and the tracting pistons. You'll notice that the huge azimuth engines here aren't on. That's technically the frame shift drive. It makes the ship very uncontrollable, just like how it is when you have to play the minigame and where you're trying to slow down to your destination before you overshoot it. And I actually really like that about it, so I made it kind of work the same way, so you can very easily accidentally slam into something, even if you have inertial dampening on. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the startup procedure. So we have that. I'm going to close the doors with 2. Technically this is where your cargo area would be. I know the cargo scoop would be down below, but I believe in some of the designs there's a cargo area. Whatever it is that's there, it's not actually supposed to be the entrance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go back inside, turn on my menu, because I always forget what actually this does. I'm going to unlock 3. I'm going to retract the gear stilts with 1, and I'll show you what that looks like. Get a decent view on it. And there they go. But you can see there's already a little bit of a roll that's happening. The reason for that is the other system, which I have yet to show you guys. I probably should have done this while it was anchored, but I figured the best way to do this would be just to, let's see, do I have the hard points here? You guys can probably guess already where they are. There they are, hard points. I'm going to make a new section for that and reverse them. And I think they're starting. They might be off. If they're off, that will be a problem, because I was hoping that the constant retraction was actually part of the problem with it. But here we go. Yeah, this is going to slam a little bit into the ground, but I think you guys will get the idea. Those pyramid-shaped pieces pop up, and then you can see the little corner there. Those are the Sachin Dachi plasma cannons, which I thought were going to be kind of like this the scatter cannon, but they're actually small missile launchers, which is cool because they do a lot more damage than the machine guns on my old Sidewinder did. But that's kind of how they come up. And if I look around at something, I will probably, let's see here, let me move them actually to here. So weapons and tools, pulse cannon, and there they are. So pretty cool. So I'm going to start flying this around. Now what you probably will notice is that after a certain speed, certain things are going to start glitching out. So slow acceleration. I wanted it to be kind of like the Sidewinder. It's slow, you know, when you're not in frame shift, which, you know, everything's pretty fast in frame shift. Take out the platform, open fire on this. Pieces are coming off this thing. There goes the cockpit shielding, all that good stuff. Now, let's say, I don't know, you want to jump to this asteroid or something like that. So what I'll do is I'm going to switch off 5, which is the main engines, and I'm going to turn on the frame shift engines. And you'll probably see a lot of physics unfortunate things happen, but that'll be funny. So again, you're seeing relatively quick acceleration as compared to before. You're probably going to start seeing some problems when it comes to controllability, because this thing has 4 gyroscopes, and you can see I'm already kind of controlling like a drunken, I guess, space pilot. So we're going as quick as we can, flying around, trying not to like fly around too violently, just because I don't want to cause any problems with the. If I were to turn around really quickly now, I'd probably snap off all the piston heads because they're absolutely struggling to keep things together. You can see my. The other thrusters are kind of struggling to keep me on the straight and narrow, and I'm actually having to move the mouse just to get this to stay like this. Like if I let go, it'll actually, you know what? No, it doesn't. It's not too bad. It's actually worse when I control it by hand. But you'll see here that it's going to take me a while to slow down once I actually let go. So you zooming along, getting close to the target. Want to start slowing down. So yeah, I'm getting some beads there. My target, slowing down slowly but surely. Then turn off frame shift, turn on my main engines, and you see, yep, already a problem there. My door on one side just flew off. That's common. I think there's a lot of problems with pistons and other sorts of cool stuff, but yeah, you see, if you flip around too quickly with one of these, you're gonna cause a lot of damage. So I just destroyed my rear engines, my frame shift. It's still controllable, although it's really interesting the way that happened, because I thought I was going slower than I was. Maybe I wasn't, but so yeah, even with a catastrophic failure like that, ship isn't terrible. You know, it's still mostly controllable. But I have lost, I believe, all of my forward reverse thrust, so I cannot slow down if I'm going forward. I don't think anything should be too problematic at this point, because all of the pistons have broken off. But that definitely, like, as you guys can easily see, is the biggest problem with this. Is just the pistons are they create a lot of problems. So this is actually what I hollowed out to make the gun pod areas, and I know that there kind of would come more out of the front area here, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys how all that was working for me. It took forever. That was actually the hardest part of this, was doing that, was figuring out how to make these guns come up. The alternative was to make it with fewer pistons, make it so that, you know, I had fixed gear, these were fixed, and the door would be open or something like that. The reactors are actually connected via conveyors, so at the very least you'll be able to kind of reload all your reactors, at least on each side, by only having to go into one of them. The weapons obviously cannot be hooked up to any kind of conveyor system. At least not that I know of. I think it's possible to connect some pistons up to containers and stuff and have them still have cross feed. But that was just a lot more than I really wanted to do for this. I don't really like the idea of mods for survival purposes, so that was already a consideration that I had. I mean, I could use the conveyor hinges mod and all that stuff, but that's really what I wanted to show you guys, was just kind of my prototype for this. And you know, even with all that damage that was caused to the ship, it's still, you know, mostly flyable. I can get back into the cockpit here. Still kind of moving around. Very maneuverable. If they ever get around to kind of making the pistons and rotors a little bit more stable, this probably would be more viable of a design. But yeah, the biggest challenge was these gun pods. I had to make it so that they retract and expand extremely slowly. Otherwise, they would just snap themselves off. I wish there was a way that they could make the bounding boxes just a little bit more lenient. That way there could be, I mean, millimeters of clipping, and have that not be an issue when you're trying to make retracting things. I know that's why they made the blast door blocks, but they're so limited. I mean, you can't, there's no angled blast doors. You have to use you know, these straight ones are the ones that make up the corners or like the edges, but there's no, like, you know, ramp version of blast doors. And I also wanted to keep mods to a minimum, so even if there's one out there that does that, I'm not particularly interested in it. So that's kind of been my showcase of it. You know, we blew up some stuff, we took a look at this, we really destroyed this, you know, ripping pieces off of it by flying incorrectly. You know, I really could have done a lot better in that, and you know, there's probably design changes that I could make to this to make it a little bit better, but overall I'm pretty happy with the design. It looks a lot more like a Sidewinder than my last one, even though I think it could use some, you know, improvements here and there, and there's probably a you know, a more in-universe realistic way to make it. Like, I'd probably at that point use like a large ship blocks to do it, but for right now I'm pretty pleased with this. Just like making replicas. So I'm hoping that the next video won't take quite as long to come out as the last one, just the one has taken. So with that, I'll see you next time, guys.